Hello everyone. In today's video I am going to talk about the dichotomy between determinism and possibilism in the human geography topic. So before starting the topic, let us understand very brief the difference between or what is the meaning of dichotomy and dualism with respect to human geography topics. So dichotomy is nothing but a contrast between two opposite things of the same kind. For example, when we talk of science and mysticism, science is at the one extreme end where it applies all rational principles, cause and effect relationship, everything. On the other hand, mysticism is on the other hand of the same spectrum, where it will talk more of superstition and may not be governed on the same principles, same rational principles as of science. So here we can say there is a dichotomy between science and mysticism. Say in the same way, we also say there is a dichotomy between physical geography and human geography, because if we take the subject of geography, one set of there's one school of thought which says that geography should deal with only the physical features of the earth. So it's completely related to the geography of earth, its physical features, topographical features, climate and everything. On the other end of the spectrum, there is something called human geography, where it talks about the impact of geography on human culture, human society, everything. Keeps the human as the center, and around him the geography will be there. So there is a dichotomy between geography. There's a dichotomy of human geography and physical geography. And next thing is dualism. Dualism is nothing but the quality of state of having two opposite parts in the same thing. Like the same person will be seeing both good and bad qualities. Sometimes a person behaves with good manners, and sometimes the same person may behave with the bad manners. So here the person has a dual nature. So in the same way, a particular subject will be showing different features when it is there. So more or less dichotomy and dualism are almost same. There's a very small difference, that's it. And why we have to study these approaches like determinism, possibilism, etc., etc. So first of all, human geography is nothing but the study of man and nature relationship, like how man influences nature or how nature influences man. And to study this kind of relationship, there are different approaches and different schools of thought which have evolved from ancient times till the contemporary present times. Among the schools of thought, the very first one is determinism, and later possibilism in the late 19th century, late 20th, in the late 19th century it has evolved. So in this video, we'll be talking about the determinism and possibilism concepts. So determinism is the primary feature which has persisted predominantly until the World War II times. Like more or less, it has started declining its importance from the 19th century late onwards, and after World War II, it has reduced its predominant feature. Okay, and in the very basic definition, determinism is nothing but a physical environment controlling the course of human action or human behavior. Like in this, nature decides the human action, or physical environment deciding the human activities, his history, his course of nature, society's development, everything. So here human is nothing but a pawn in the hands of nature. That is determinism in very basic terms. And also this determinism also helps in understanding the variation in human behavior, history, the human history, culture, living style, and the stages of development of various social groups over time. Now let us talk about some of the examples of determinism given by various societies or various scholars over a period of time. And initially it was propounded by Greeks and Romans, like in 1st century BC, in that time around. So one of the famous person among the Greeks is Aristotle, and Aristotle has declared that the Greece is superior to colder northern European regions or the warmer tropical southern regions as compared to Greece. The main reason why he said this statement is that, as per the Aristotle, in the cold climate region, people are very brave, but they are very much unintelligent due to the environment factors. And at the same time, in the warmer regions, people are intelligent, but then there is no spirit among them, and this will lead to slavery among the warmer regions. So, and when we compare Greece among these two regions, it will occupies the middle position, and based on this, he explained that Greece is superior to both colder northern warmer regions, and that is why Greece is having monopoly, and it is able to rule larger empire. It is during the time of 1st century to 2nd century, 3rd century AD, where Greece is at the top of the empire at that prime of the period. Aristotle also has expressed that prosperity of certain nations are because of their favorable environmental conditions. And the next person among the ancient scholars is the Strabo, who is the Roman. And Strabo has, after Greece has collapsed, after Greece Empire has collapsed, Roman Empire has occupied its stage. And Strabo is of the opinion that Rome is a Roman Empire, and Rome is the best example of very great empire because of its region at that time. And also, as per the Strabo, the physical features of all physical and topographical features on the earth are all the works of the god, and he tried to explain the various phenomena governing the lifestyles of people with respect to these topographical and physical features of the earth. And the next in line is the Montesquieu, and Montesquieu is of the opinion that colder climate people are usually strong, but they are less cunning and more frank and courageous people. At the same time, warm climate people are more timorous, and they are weak in body and lazy and very passive in nature. And And after Greeks and Romans empires have collapsed, the next major empire or the civilization which has covered most of the region is the Arabs. And the Arabs in geography, scholars in the geography science, they have divided the habitable world into 7 terrestrial zones based on the climate. They have done this basically to highlight the physical and characteristics of the various races and nations in these regions. So here also they have determined the nature of the people based on the environment feature like climate in this case. And one of the example of such Arab scholar is Al-Masudi. He declared that the Syrian people, Syria, which is having more abundant water at that time, the people in that region are more gay and humorous, and at the same time people living in very dry and arid lands, they are very short tempered, and the nomads who live in the dry region are very strong, and they have very strong resolution also, and their wisdom and physical fitness is also very great. And now coming to particular scholars from the modern times, it has started from the 18th century onwards, and one among them is the George Tathan. And George Tathan has expressed that the differences between different regions of the world are because of the differences among the environmental conditions existing in them. And the next famous scholar is Kant, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant tried to give examples of determinism in the following ways. He is of the opinion that the New Holland people, that is the East Indies or Indonesia, present Indonesia time, those people are evolved with half-closed eyes. That is because of the innumerable flies existing in the region. And he's also expressed that the people in this region, they cannot see very far distance, and basically they have to bend their head till their back to reach a far place. And Kant is basically a climate determinist kind of person, where he is of the view that climate determines the nature of the people living in that region. For example, he is of the opinion that inhabitants of very hot lands are very timid and lazy, and that is, they are not very active in their activities. And usually timidity engenders superstition, and this is the reason when they are usually led by kings, it leads to slavery in those regions, like in Africa or the southern Asian regions or Southeast Asia, in that kind of regions. And he also gave example of some of the animals like brown squirrel or other birds which change their body color when they migrate to different climates from their native regions. Okay. And coming to next century, that is the 19th century, And in this century, the environmental causation has continued throughout. Like basically, causation is nothing but act of causing something. That is, environment is causing something, and there is a effect among the human behavior that has even continued in the 19th century. And in the earlier 19th century, we find the major scholars who are Karl Ritter and Alexander von Humboldt. They both are contemporary and they are from German regions. So Karl Ritter, in his studies, he has adopted anthropocentric approach with geographical determinism. That is, basically he put man as the center of his studies, and how the man is getting influenced by various geographical factors surrounded by him. For example, he has tried to explain the variation of physical features of the body in man from the various physical environmental conditions existing around him. And for example to that was like he explained why Turcoman people has very narrow eyelids. That is basically due to the presence of desert features, desert effect around these people. And his school of geography, they and Karl Ritter's School of Geography, that is basically the followers of Karl Ritter. They wanted to influence geographical conditions on material culture and political destinies of the inhabitants of given division, both in the present and the past time. Okay. Next in line is the Alexander von Humboldt. Humboldt and Ritter both are contemporaries, as I just said, and both are of also the view of determinism proponents. In case of Karl Ritter, he placed a human as the center of his studies. In the Humboldt case, he did not specifically put human. Okay, and he gave example of the inhabitants of mountainous country and plains and their various mode of life to give example and deterministic approach. Okay. And coming to the later 19th century, here onwards the determinism has slightly evolved into much has progressed into other stages. Now in the mid 19th century, it was like Darwin has published his famous Origin of Species, which has influenced many geographies. And basically from 1850s till the late 19th century, the entire geography was influenced by Darwin's idea and deductive approaches and Newtonian cause and effect relationships. Deductive approach is nothing but you have a particular theory and testing that theory to make it as successful. Okay. And in the case of Charles Darwin, he is based on his works, the scientific determinism has evolved, and subsequently environmental determinism has prevailed in the American School of Geography in the later the initial 20th century period, based on the Darwin's work. And from the American School of Geography, one of the famous person is William Morris Davis. He has taken up the Darwin's notion regarding the evolution, and he has adapted into his erosion model of landforms development, like normal cycle, arid cycle, of the various Davis work. And another very famous person who is a follower of Darwin is the Ratzel. He is from the German School of Geography. And Frederick Ratzel, he is basically the founder of New Determinism. So in the New Determinism is nothing but to the existing classical geographical determinism which was prevailing until then, he has supplemented that determinism with the elements of social Darwinism, which became popular with the Darwin work. And basically in this he developed a theory of state developed a new theory of state on the basis of this new determinism. He said that the state is basically an organism which owed its life to the earth, and it's being ever striving to seize more and more territory. And Ratzel is in the period where the unification of Germany in the 1870s is going on, and he's also more patriotic and joined military services during that time. And in the later stages, and like the followers of Ratzel and many other geographers from the German School of Geography, they have expanded this theory of state as an organism, and they told that colonialism is like a natural thing to for the life of colonialism is a natural thing for a state to be more sustainable. And in fact, in the World War II also, the various geographers have supported the. I mean, before World War II also, various geographers have supported the idea of expanding the German Empire to have the living on the basis of this example only. Okay. And coming to Retzel again, Retzel has believed in the survival of the fittest of the Darwin's work. He said that man, on the natural selection of the types according to their capacity, will adjust themselves to the physical environment. So because of that, similar locations in the region will lead to similar modes of life. For example, people in British Isles and Japan, their locations are very much similar in the sense that they are island and they are far from the continental regions, so they have more insularity, and their climate is also more favorable to their condition, and this has witnessed rapid progress of development in these two regions in very short period of time. So based on these studies, we'll understand that Retzel has tried to give more weight to location in relation to other topographic features in his deterministic approach. So coming to the historical perspective of scientific determinism, this is nothing but the view of the past. So how the determinism has evolved in very brief. So initially the determinism is like a theological, is in the eyes of theological school of thought. That is, Earth was designed for the human species particularly, and God is the creator of the earth, and then this earth which was designed was created, earth which was created was for a particular purpose which was divine usually, and then later deterministic school of thought has evolved, in which the proponents has agreed upon that environment is influencing the culture, and in that stage there was it has evolved from the contrast between nature and culture in different places to interpreting the great array of biological and cultural differences. Since slowly from there it has refining into narrow stage. Like till then it was very broad in the terms, and slowly it is refining and narrowing the perspective on scientific determinism. Like for example, Thomas Malthus, who is a scientific determinist, he said that environment is not only influencing but it also imposes restrictions on the social development. So in this stage people have started noticing that there are even restrictions placed by the environment. And next famous person is the Carl Ritter. So Carl Ritter is of the view that physical environment was capable of determining the course of human development, and this was further view was much further strengthened by the Darwin's Origin of Species in 1859. So, and in the post-Darwin's work, scientific type of determinism has arose. So basically, scientific determinism is not that much different from determinism. It's like determinism, but using the features scientifically. I mean, it's like basically application determinism type. So post-Darwin, the scientific type of determinism has helped in accounting the features like migration and also national characteristics of the particular people. So from this time onwards, people have started in applied geography, like applied scientific determinism they started. And Retzel and Semple are the most associated persons with this kind of scientific determinism, or also known as environmental determinism. And in the later stage, Huntington has modified this idea of environmental determinism slightly, and he has tried to seek out the objective evidence of physical environment, that is in a particular environment in which he regarded as an important influence of human behavior, like which factor is influencing the human behavior predominantly, that he tried to seek out with an objective evidence. And the later stage, the Australian geographer, that is Griffith Taylor, he has proposed the stop and go determinism. So he is of the view that the environment determines, like a traffic control system, environment determines the rate but not the direction of progress of development. Now we'll talk about the environmental determinism. That's the next topic. Okay. Its origin lies in the Charles Darwin's Origin of Species in the later half of the 19th century, and it became very popular in the American School of Geography. during the early 20th century, and it is also popularly known as environmentalism. Basically, determinism is like a broad term, and particularly the belief and environmental determinism is a, I mean, they both go hand in hand, or they both are used interchangeably, determinism and environmental determinism. And the definition of environmental determinism is the belief that variation in human behavior around the world can be explained by differences in their nature and environment. Okay. And the popular proponents of this environmental determinism, uh, especially among the American School of Geography, are William Morris Davis, Ellen Churchill Sample, and Ellsworth Huntington. Yeah, coming to Ellen Churchill Sample, she is the follower of Retzel from the German School of Geography, and she is a staunch supporter of determinism. Okay, she is one of the leading personalities in the American School of Geography in the 20th century period, and she is very famous for her book known as Influences of Geography, which was published in 1911. And she started the book with a very famous para starting with "Man is a product of the Earth's surface," and correspondingly she has explained how the nature or the earth has molded the man, and how it has given various uh, how it has given the chances to adapt to him to his surroundings, and the limitations which it has kept uh, given to the man. In this book, Semple has distinguished the altitudinal characteristics of the people. That's basically between the mountain living inhabitants and the well-connected plain living inhabitants. So among the mountainous, she says that among the mountain living inhabitants, they are essentially conservative because there is little environment to stimulate them to change, and there is very little and very little reaches from the outside world to them. As a result, innovation is very repugnant to them, and also diffusion of ideas is very less as compared to the outer world. So when there is a very low when there is isolation of when there is very high isolation of these hill dwellers, it generally leads to orthodoxy or conservatism or suspicious attitude towards their outside society or outside people, and also it also leads to strong religious feeling and intense love for their family among the mountain dwellers. Also, we can find the bitter struggle for existence uh, among this kind of hill dwellers, which makes them more industrious, which makes them more frugal, provident, and honest. Okay. On the contrary to this, the well-connected plains, the people living in those regions are very energetic, they are very serious, thoughtful rather than emotional. And these plains living people, they are also very cautious rather than impulsive like mountainous living people. And between these two extremes lies the moderate region, that is the people like in Mediterranean region where the climate is very temperate in nature, and the people living there are very gay, humorous, sportive, imaginative, as they take life as very easy. Maybe that's why we can find Italy as the as we can see, Renaissance has started primarily in the Italy and its surroundings regions. The next proponent in this environmentalism is Ellsworth Huntington. Ellsworth Huntington is very famous for writing the book on the principles of human geography in 1945. Okay. Basically, his writings on climate and civilization has displayed his attraction or preference or predilection towards the racial stereotyping and environmental explanations to the problems. Huntington also has again and again reiterated the importance of genetic constitutions among the people, and he is of the opinion that supreme achievements of civilizations on the world are due to a particular type of climate. That is, he developed the ideas of climate's role in advancement of civilization. For example, when there is a stimulating climate or the best climate where the temperature falls within a certain favorable range, then it will lead to very high civilization in the region. And he gave example of United Kingdom or the New England region of the American Northeast American, where we find very stimulating environment. He also gave very he also divided the map of habitable regions in the ancient times based on the fertile river valleys of mild climates. Such regions are like Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Chinese, and Indian civilizations, which he declared that these regions are more flourished because of the mild climate in their regions. Huntington is also of the opinion that ideal climatic conditions, which are at the range of temperature about 20 degrees centigrade and variable atmospheric conditions, they are very ideal for high mental and physical efficiency of the people in that region. And this kind of moderate temperature is primarily found in the northeast USA and northwest European countries. And for this reason, he has explained that the achievement of Americans or Europeans is more progressive and developed and successful than any other country. At the same time, he told that the underdeveloped tropics is as underdevelopment of tropical countries is as a result of the bad weather in those regions. Okay. Huntington is also of the opinion that religion and racial character are basically the products of climate. And to further tell the climate influence on the civilization, Huntington has explained that the great conquest like Mongols and from the Central Asian nomadic people to the various surrounding regions like Iran, Western Asia or the Northern Indian region, they are basically because of the dying of pasture in the region and the search for the food in the other fertile regions. Okay. And finally, he is of the opinion that climate was the fundamental factor in the rise of civilization out of all the possible factors of natural environment. So basically, Huntington is having the similar view as Aristotle, who explained that Greece is having milder climate, which is much better than the colder northern Europe region or the warmer southern tropical region. But basically, the difference between Aristotle and Huntington in this view is that their perception is from a different location. That is, Aristotle is from Greece region, and Huntington, being an American, he's of the view that he has pursued from American point of view. Next, as per view of the geographers, societies are progress with a deterministic approach. So, such as like there is a climate, the climate will be influencing the soil in that region, and the soil subsequently will be influencing the cropping patterns grown there, and these cropping patterns will result in a different dietary habits among the people in that region, and the dietary habits subsequently will give variations in the physique and attitude of the habitants. So for example, the Sikhs in the northern India, they are very rich on the diet of proteins like cereals and wheat. They have the strong body and strong physique as compared to the rice eating the Tamils in the southern Indian regions or the Kasis of the Meghalaya plateau who consumes less protein based diet. Similarly, the Kikuyu and Messiah tribes of Kenya, the Kikuyu tribes, their diet is basically of the cereal, tubers and legumes, and Messiah tribes are Messiah tribes are cattle raisers, and their diet is mainly on meat consumption. So although these two tribes lives in the same region under the same climate influence, but their physical characteristics vary a lot. And also increase in weight and height of Japanese and Chinese people who has migrated to western regions like America and Europe has explained that diet has a significant role among the physical characteristics of the people. Another geographer, Geddes, also explained that more meat consuming Muslims in India are less prone to malaria than the Hindus who consumes predominantly vegetarian diet. Okay. And finally, the quality of diet definitely has much bearing on the increase, decrease and longevity of the population of a region. This can be tested by the statistics of low meat consuming regions in the regions like India, Malaysia, which has higher which has higher population as compared with the high protein meat consuming regions like Sweden and Denmark and Scandinavian regions, which has low population presence. So coming to the drawbacks of the environmental determinism, uh, environmental determinism does not explain the differences between different tribes or different people living in the same environmental forces, such as like people like Eskimos and tundra tribes of Siberia who differs markedly. At the same time, it neglects the cultural factors that will affect human behavior. For example, Bakarwalas and Kashmiris of Jammu Kashmir, Nepalis and Khasis of Meghalaya. For example, uh, because Bakarwalas are Gujars, this can be explained by the also no two cultures or ethnic groups in the same environment evaluate and use the resources in the same way. It's basically due to the difference in lifestyle and stages of development of various ethnic group and nations. Taking example of Bakarwalas and Kashmirs of Jammu Kashmir, Bakarwalas and other tribes like Gujars, they reside on the hill slopes of the mountain region, and their mode of living is different from the Kashmiris, who are basically cultivators and who resides in a particular area in the region. So although they are living in the same under the same climate influence, but their way of lifestyle is completely different, and also the way they use their resources are also completely different. Similarly is the case between Nepalis and Khasis of Meghalaya. At the same time, Kikuus and Maasai tribes of Kenya region. And to evaluate environment determinism in one single line, it's basically environment and man influences each other, and it is very difficult to know when one influence has ceased and the other has begun. For example, the many natural appearing landscapes which we normally find are in fact the true work of man. For example, olive, wine, grape orchards of Mediterranean region, or the apple and almond orchards of Kashmir region. They are basically the work of man, and they are not the natural grown crops in that region. And coming to the criticism of environmental determinism, in the post-World War II phase, this philosophy has been attacked by many geographers due to its extreme or more exaggeration of nature's active role, and also to the fact that they only acknowledge man as a capable of passive attempts at adaptation. So, in the 20th century, post World War I or World War II time, there is a increase in the advancement of technology, and through that it has been possible to overcome the limitations posed by the limitations or the influence of the environment. So in that period, from that era onwards, people have started opposing this kind of philosophy more. Also, action of man reveals many facts for which environment forces alone can give no satisfactory explanation. For example, cultural factors of the societies. And one of the geographer like Spade, he is of the opinion that geographical environment is only one of the factors of territorial differentiation, and it acts through society, and cultural tradition has a certain autonomous influence. And finally, in the words of Hartstone, he completely rejects environmentalism on the grounds that it separates nature from man, and thus it is completely disruptive of fundamental unity of the field, that is the geography. Geography is basically the study of human and nature interaction. So, to conclude this environmentalism, we can tell in brief that at the very large scale, we can be determinist, but when it comes to local scales, we can see the virtue of possibilism or cultural and social determinisms. Thank you.